Just before I actually review the film, a few things. Mainly, I highly suggest you see it. You go to the cinemas not to see the film, but to see the Red Bull advert that's currently playing in the cinemas. It's a short film called Imaginate, and it's really quite well done. It really takes you back to that childhood innocence when you used to play with your toys and stuff, and the soundtrack in it is awesome. What I'll do is I'll stick a link in it so that if you do decide to listen to this review of sorts, you can watch that as well, so that you don't have to go to the cinemas to watch it. Although watching it in the cinema is pretty nice, as long as people aren't chomping popcorn in your ear. And that leads me to an issue I had with the cinema today. Mainly couples in the cinema. I understand you're dating a girl, you want to take her out to have a good time, but why spend £10 to go to a darkened place that's public, not private, and neck off with your broad whilst you're trying to watch a film? It boggles my mind, you know. It's something I haven't done. I've dated, I've taken girls to the cinemas, but I've never necked off of them in the cinema. I don't see the point. If I'm going to spend money to do that, I'll go on Netflix, I'll go on Love Film, I'll go to Blockbuster, I'll rent a film, I'll go home, you know, where I can pause the film, cop off with a bird, and then depause and continue to watch the film, or do it whilst watching the film, and if I get distracted, rewind. You know, you can't do that in a film, and it annoys others, mainly the sad, lonely people in the audience who don't have anyone to cop off with. So, new rule. Don't come to the cinemas to cop off with your bird. And if you do, sit at the back so I can't see you. Don't do it when you're sat on my peripheral vision. You know, it's ever so annoying. But, speaking of film, the film I went to see was Now You See Me. And it was great. As Wikipedia places it, it's a caper film. And it is. With magic. It's a caper film with magic. It did feel like I was watching a very stylized Bourne Identity or James Bond film. And the music as well by the London Philharmonic really emphasised that mood as well. But it was very well done. You know, so much so that the lead cast of Jesse Eisenberg, Isla Fisher, Dave Franco, and Woody Harrelson are actually shadowed by... You know, the shadow by Mark Ruffalo, because he is great in that film. I've not seen a lot of Mark Ruffalo. The last time I saw him was in the Avengers as the Hulk, and I didn't like him because he was playing the Hulk. Edward Norton should have been playing the Hulk, not Mark Ruffalo. So I already didn't like him for that moment, and I really didn't find him that great an actor because, you know, it's not hard to be Bruce Banner. You know, someone who's just calm and confident and just boring. Bruce Banner's a boring character to play. That's why Ed Norton did it well. He can make boring interesting. Mark Ruffalo can't. So that's why I hated him. However, in this film, he was amazing. He was very, very good. And his presence in the film overshadowed the presence of the main cast, and even overshadowed Morgan Freeman, you know, and Michael Caine, who were criminally underused in this film. So much so, they were so underused in this film that in the end credits, it actually says, after telling you the entire cast, and Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine, they were below Mark Ruffalo and Jesse Eisenberg, and even they were below Woody Harrelson, who I also say is great in this film. It's great to see Woody Harrelson actually in a film that isn't in my DVD collection. You know, the last time I saw Woody Harrelson was what was it? I think Kingpin was the last Woody Harrelson film I saw. I'm not sure, that could be right, but yeah, I think pretty much it's Kingpin, the last film I saw him in. But he was great in it also. Now the film, it surprised me. I was expecting that as soon as they mention a slight story in arc, whenever a film ever does this, like in Star Trek when they mentioned the Tribbles, and then they did that whole scene, and just whenever they do a film like this and they mention a story arc, it's not really part of the story, it just takes you out for some character development, and they wouldn't have mentioned that character development unless it was important in the film, and in this case it is, and it leads to a twist of sorts, but you don't quite get the twist. You don't really see it coming. The whole film is about misdirection. It's about looking further than you can actually see, and it pays off. I was expecting it to be, this will happen in like halfway through the movie, you'll get it, you'll know it and stuff. And to a point you do know the ending, but then even then you're still tricked at the ending. The ending still becomes a surprise to you, because even though you thought you knew the ending, you didn't know the ending, and it completely shocks you and throws you out. And it's worth it just to see it for that. It's worth it just to see it for the ending, because the ending is pretty good. It's not great. It leaves a hell of a lot of questions unanswered, and you are scratching your head, but it's a good feeling. It's like, I've learned something today. I've been educated whilst watching a film. It is good. Now, the visual effects are a mixed bag. The practical effects are brilliant. The fire and the flames and the explosions and the stuff you can actually physically see and you can actually physically do are very well done. Whereas on the visual side, not so much impressive. Like a lot of the effects for the magic, you can clearly tell they're visual effects, and it kind of takes you out of the film. Now, I know the film is meant to be a fantasy. It's meant to be a fantasy magician film. It's not meant to be realistic like The Prestige. It's meant to be a fantasy. These are miraculous magicians you've got here who have outworldly powers that far, don't exist in the real world. So it's meant to be out there, but it can still take you out of it when you've got incredible practical effects, and then they're marred by the special effects that just don't look like they fit at all. Now, the lighting is brilliant. The lighting effects are great, and one of the main effects done in near the end of the film, where they're projecting on a building, is actually done. They do it all the time. I can't quite think what it's called, but it's when they get 3D imaging on a building and it looks like the building's crumbling or falling apart. And they do concerts on buildings and stuff like that. I've seen them done, and it's very, very well done. And the camera work is amazing. There's a scene right at the beginning where they're actually filming in the Las Vegas lot, where they're actually doing the first trick, and they do a huge pan of the audience, and they zoom in and they zoom out, and you can clearly tell it's crane work, but it's very well done. And there's not really all that many flaws with the film. Just like I said, the bad visuals aren't all that great, and everything else that wasn't really part of the film. The audience annoying me wasn't part of the film. But the visuals did kind of take it out of it. And also, it's another film where the trailer shows you far too much, so that when you see the film, you're clued in. The trailer even gives you spoilers. It's that bad. And you got to halfway through the film when you're watching the film, and you remember back to the trailer if you've seen it enough times, and you're like, well, that bit hasn't happened in the trailer yet, so I know that character might be okay, or the film's not going to end yet because that scene hasn't happened. Now, as far as I know from watching the trailer and actually seeing the film, everything in the trailer is in the film. It's not one of those where they make a trailer and then they edit it before the film comes out, and then the stuff in the trailer isn't in the film. Everything in the trailer is in the film. Just, if you can resist it, if you can perhaps, listen to this before you go see the film, then do so and don't watch the trailer, because it gives it away, a lot of it. But other than, the slight nitpicks, it was a very good film. And I was highly impressed by it. It was no Prestige, by a long shot, even though Michael Caine is in it. Like I said, he's criminally underused. And Morgan Freeman is also in it. I swear those two just keep appearing in films. I think there should be a film with Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman just sat talking to one another, describing elements of their life. Or just something. Throw in some other cast members there that are not as known as them. And maybe then Morgan Freeman and McQueen will actually get top billing for once, because I swear they used to be Hollywood movie stars. They're meant to be big. Anywho, I have done recording. I'm going to now stop, jump on Far Cry, and blow some angry black people away. Because they wish to blow me away. I don't know why. Probably because I'm landed on their island and they don't like me, so they're shooting me. I do find it slightly racist that in Far Cry, the people on your side are South African, and most of the enemies you shoot are black. I don't know if that's just me looking too deeply into it, but yeah, what do you do? So anyway, I'm off to play Far Cry, eat some pizza. Priapus has been very, very quiet. That's because I've had him on my knee the entire time, so you've had no constant meowing. But just before I go, anything you want to say? Anything at all? Okay, just that. Okay, so it's goodbye from me. You going to say goodbye? You going to say goodbye? And goodbye from Priapus.